Buffett is retiring, his cash pile, and his massive tax payment. Hey everyone, it's Wolfgang. So on May 3rd of this year, just a couple of weeks ago, at the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting, Warren Buffett announced that he will be retiring at the end of this year. And apparently he had not told the board of directors ahead of time. In fact, there's a story, I don't know if this is true or not, but he had not told Greg Abel, the new CEO, ahead of time that he was going to announce his retirement. So it came as a surprise. And, you know, the actions that Buffett took leading up to this may give an indication as to why he sort of kept it to himself for as long as he did. So I'm going to explain what I mean as we go through this. It begins with Charlie Munger passing away about a year and a half ago at the end of November 2023. Charlie was Buffett's partner in that company, in Berkshire Hathaway, for decades. Munger was an attorney. He was a great source of legal help for that company, for Berkshire Hathaway. I would imagine that after Buffett's legal contact, you know, Charlie passed away, that would introduce a lot of newness into Buffett's investing life. And if you notice from his habits, he's not really someone who is into dramatic change, right? He's lived in the same home since 1958. Very few people live in a home that long, very few. He's operated in the same town, small town in the Midwest, for decades. He's not into rapid change, things that change a lot. He does not trade often. So I would imagine this was sort of a milestone for Buffett in his, you know, his thinking about the company. You know, he lost his partner. What's going to happen? That's a big change. So Warren Buffett started taking specific actions after Charlie passed away. And I'm going to explain what those actions were. The first thing is his cash pile. He has a large cash pile now. And a lot of people have wondered, you know, what is up with that? Why is he accumulating and raising so much cash? Is it due to his retiring? And he has not admitted that. He has not come out and explained it. But I'm going to explain it. I'm going to give some evidence as to what actually was going on behind the scenes. It's our supposition that Warren had already decided to retire if and when Charlie passed away. And again, I think it's related to the fact that if there's going to be a big change, let's do all the change at once. The partner passes away, the business is going to be radically different with that resource gone. You know, if you've had a right-hand man for decades and suddenly he's out of the picture, you know, there's a lot of newness, a lot of change. And for someone who doesn't like change like Buffett, he might have decided that's the time to retire, especially given his age. He's 94. So it's quite possible, I would even say likely, that Buffett had already decided to retire if and when Charlie Munger passed away. And the indication would be this. Did his cash pile start growing after Munger passed away? So here's the history, the recent history of Berkshire Hathaway's cash pile. It's important to keep in mind that in the past, Buffett has said that he wanted to keep $30 billion in cash in reserves at Berkshire Hathaway, $30 billion. That was his low water mark in terms of how much cash he wanted to have on hand. So in quarter four, when Charlie passed away, Berkshire Hathaway had $167 billion liquidity. Now, it's not actually in cash. They buy U.S. Treasury bonds with the money so that they can get some kind of return on the money. They don't keep it in cash at the bank. But $167 billion liquid in treasuries during the time that Munger passed away. The next quarter one of 2024, the cash pile increased from $167 billion to $189 billion. And again, we're looking for an indication. Did the Berkshire Hathaway cash pile start growing after Munger passed away? Because if it did, that would be a sign Buffett had this planned all along to do this. And I will explain why he's raising all this cash a bit later here in a few minutes. So we went from $167 billion when Munger passed away. The next quarter, the cash pile increased to $189 billion. The quarter after that, a huge jump, $277 billion in cash reserves invested in U.S. Treasuries. The next quarter after that, it jumped from 277 to 325 billion. This most recent quarter, this year, quarter one, 2025, the cash pile is 348 billion. Now we started not so long ago at the time Munger passed away at 167 billion. We're now at 348 billion, right? A doubling. So that is the record high in Berkshire's history for cash on hand. It's the record high. They've never had that much cash on hand. And if you think about it, Buffett in the past has said he wanted to keep $30 billion in cash reserves, not $348 billion, $30 billion. And this is a record high in Berkshire Hathaway for cash on hand. Now, if you look at the pattern here, it's pretty clear this is not random. This is increasing for the past several quarters. Each quarter, it's growing larger. The cash pile is so that's not random. Buffett had to take specific actions to make that happen. Okay. So what steps did Buffett take to increase the cash pile from 167 to 348 billion? Okay. So number one, this is an important one. He reduced stock buybacks. Normally what he tended to do every year, he would buy back about $20 billion worth of Berkshire Hathaway stock. Okay. So what that means, if you own Berkshire Hathaway stock and Buffett is buying back shares, that's reducing the number of shares outstanding. It's reducing the supply of stock. That means when the supply drops, your shares become more valuable. So Buffett did that on purpose for shareholders, right? He doesn't pay dividends, but he does buy back stock. So he reduced stock buybacks from 20 billion all the way down to only 2.9 billion over the past couple of years. 20 billion reduced 90% almost to only 2.9 billion. Another step he took to raise cash, he sold a major portion of their Apple stock, 600 million shares in AAPL. He also sold Bank of America holdings and other holdings. And most importantly, he has not made a major acquisition of a large business or stock purchases. He's been raising cash ever since Munger passed away, from 167 billion to an almost doubling of 348 billion, the largest cash pile in Berkshire Hathaway's history. So those are very specific actions that Buffett took systematically to raise cash. Why? Is it because he wants to buy businesses? No, he's retiring. He has no plans to buy anything. He's retiring from the company at the end of this year in just a few months. So why the huge cash pile? It's most likely to help the new CEO, Greg Abel, make investment decisions of his own, to set him up with the greatest liquidity in the company's history so that Abel can hit the ground running and start making investment decisions, probably with Buffett's help, right? Because Buffett will probably be at Greg Abel's disposal to help him make investment decisions, depending on how long Warren Buffett stays around. Who knows? So the penalty that Buffett has paid, literally, to raise this much cash, all the way up to the record high 348 billion in cash, he paid 27 billion to the IRS in taxes. That's a huge hit. $27 billion to the IRS. So this is evidence that Buffett had this planned. That when Munger passed away, I'm going to start raising cash. I'm not going to buy any huge businesses. I'm going to sell stock. I'm going to reduce share buybacks. I'm going to set Greg Abel up so that he has cash to invest if opportunities present themselves. People have suspected this. People have asked Warren Buffett, are you raising this much cash, a record high, the highest in Berkshire Hathaway? Mr. Buffett, are you raising this much cash to help Greg Abel? Buffett has denied that. Not in so many words, though. He said, I wouldn't do anything nearly so noble as to withhold investing myself just so that Greg could look good later on. I think that's I think he's being facetious there. I think that's exactly what he did. I think he withheld investing so Greg could look good later on. I mean, he paid $27 billion to the IRS. He more than doubled the cash reserves at Berkshire to the highest in history. Why would he do that? For a fact, he's not setting aside cash because he himself wants to make large purchases. He's going to rely on Abel to make those decisions. So it's quite likely that he had this planned that once Charlie passed away, he was going to start raising cash, because that's what happened. That's exactly what he did. Starting with 167 billion, Munger passed away. Bam, we're at the highest cash pile in history. So let me see if there's anything else. There's one other issue. This is, for the first time in history, I believe, this amount of cash, this is more than their stock holdings. The amount of cash they have on hand exceeds the value of the stocks in the Berkshire portfolio. I believe that's a first also. Check me on that. I believe if it's not a first, it's very rare that they have more cash than stock holdings at that company. It's very rare that they're in that position. So it's quite likely that Buffett had planned this. Now, as to why he did not inform the board of directors, that's interesting. Maybe he suspected that there would be a leak. Maybe he wanted to be able to take these actions in as much privacy as possible. And if you think about it, he did this cash raising incrementally with these steps, reducing share buybacks, selling Apple, selling Bank of America, no large purchases. He did that incrementally, not all at once. Had he told the board of directors ahead of time, maybe that would have affected the way he planned to carry this out, the raising of cash. I don't know. I don't know if it necessarily means he doesn't trust his own board of directors or not. I think it just means he wanted some privacy to be able to take these steps incrementally over time without being interfered with by being questioned by the board. Because each time he took an additional step to raise cash, the only thing the board of directors could do is just note it. Okay, he's raising more cash again. He's raising more cash again. He's raising more cash. He's raising more cash. That's what they would note. If they knew in advance, they might have made a fuss about it. Why are you raising so much cash? And then he would have had to explain earlier that he planned to retire at the end of 2025. Because it's likely when Charlie passed away a year and a half ago, Buffett knew he was going to retire at the end of 2025, thereabouts. He may not have known how long it would take to carry out these actions, right? But he probably knew he probably knew that once this change happened, that was such a big change, he may as well retire himself. So I think that's the story with the huge cash pile and the massive tax payment. The $27 billion payment to the IRS, that's a big one, right? $27 billion in taxes. So if you have any questions about this, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.